Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Today I'd like to talk about mounting a rear access ladder on your van. This ladder here is made by a company called Prime Designs, and one of the really nice features about this is that it doesn't require any drilling or modifications to the skin of your van in order to mount. It comes in two colors, either black or silver. I obviously have the black version, and it is customized for the dimensions of your van, whether that's a Ford Transit, low, medium, high roof, or a Mercedes Sprinter, or Dodge Promaster, etc. Finally, it's also pretty darn light. I weighed the entire thing and it adds about 18.5 pounds to your van. Now you might ask, why do you even need a rear access ladder? Well, in my case, my van's approximately 8.5 feet tall and it's really cumbersome to get onto the roof. I've tried standing on a rear wheel to reach up and grab things. I've tried to awkwardly stand on the rear bumper while blindly reaching up and trying to grab whatever's on the roof. And most of the time, I end up needing to just concede defeat, go to the garage, and grab a separate ladder in order to gain access to the roof. Well, instead of trying to carry around a separate ladder inside the van and then open the doors and set it up every time I want to get up, I decided to just install a fixed rear access ladder. So today we're going to take a look at unboxing the ladder, putting it together, installing it on the van, and checking fit and clearances. All right, so let's get it out of the box. And I guess while we're talking about the box, I think this thing wins the award for the world's most nondescript box. It's literally a brown box that's pretty large, but the only thing that's on it is this sticker on the side. Then let me peel this off and I'll show you. This is actually a little bit interesting. Because like we talked about earlier, this is a ladder that's specific to my van. So again, my van was the Ford Transit, the medium roof, and notice I also got it in black. This ladder comes in black and silver. So this is kind of nice that this is customized exactly to the van. Here's another interesting thing. It's got a manufacture date, October 10th, 2019. This thing arrived at my house yesterday, which was, I think, October 18th, 2019. So that's pretty cool. 8 days from being manufactured to being shipped to my door. So here's the information about the ladder from the box. Why don't we open it up and see if that's actually what's inside? All right, so to open this guy up, let's just go ahead and grab our X-Acto knife and cut the edges. All right, so let's see what all this stuff I dropped on the floor is. So, okay, here's a bag of miscellaneous hardware and as well as some anti-seize components. So that's kind of nice that they've got that included. Let's go ahead and tape this up next to all the other junk that comes with the kit. Okay, and then here we go. You've got the top mounts. So a left and a right mounting bracket for the top. Okay, let's just go put these up here maybe. And then what else have we got? Okay, and then again, we've got the two mounts for the bottom. So these are the bottom mounts. Let's see if we can find some space for these guys. I don't know where I'm gonna be able to tuck these. Maybe I can be creative and get all this stuff sitting on the display. There we go, okay. And then finally, you've got these hangers for the bottom as well. So you've got a left and a right bracket that goes onto the bottom hanger. So again, let's go ahead and, I don't know, put these someplace just so you can see everything that comes in the kit. And maybe while we're at it, I don't think we took a close look at the ladder, and this is actually really, I think it's actually quite nice, especially in the black. Let's pull this off and you can take a closer look at it. And obviously we'll take a nicer look when it's mounted onto the van, but this is maybe a nice place to look at it indoors. So the finish is quite nice of this black anodized metal. You can see it's not exactly straight. There's a kink in it. So that'll help for clearance. And I'm excited to get this guy mounted on the van. So with that being said, let's just lay everything out so we can see everything that came in the box and take some next steps after that. So there we go. Here's everything that came in the box. Ladder, mounting brackets, hardware, instructions. seems like a pretty complete kit. All right, so let's start putting the ladder together. So I've got the ladder sitting up here. Here's the top. So here's the left side and the right side. So the first thing we're going to do is grab the upper bracket on the left side. So I can tell this is the left one because apparently you want the bolt heads facing inward on this. So again, this one is the left versus the right side. So they're basically going to go in like that. Okay, so let's just work on the left one first. So I'm going to go ahead and grab one of the M8 bolts, and we'll go ahead and put a lock washer and then the flat washer, and then I'm going to stick a tiny little bit of anti-seize component on the threads here because it's actually a little bit tight getting this in because I think they've painted it, so the fit is a little bit snug. So all we're going to do is line this guy up, and if you notice here, I don't know if you can see easily in the camera, but there's actually a lot of holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 holes on the ladder. We need to use holes number 2 and 4 apparently according to the manual. So I'll line this guy up and I'll put this bolt into hole number 2 and finger tighten. And again, this is why the anti-seize is nice, because you want to make sure you're not cross-threading this. Okay, then we'll grab another M8 bolt, and we're going to put this now into hole number 4. So let me see, this was 1, 2, 3. Wait, whoa, I dropped it. Yeah, okay, so let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this hole there. Okay. Again, we'll just finger tighten it. All right, once we're sure that we've got these finger threaded in and they're not cross-threaded, you can see there's some play in this bracket. We're gonna push this all the way up to the top and then grab your 13mm wrench, and we are gonna tighten these guys down to 90 inch-pounds. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now, and we'll come back in a second. All right, so we've got the left upper bracket on. We're gonna do the exact same thing with the right upper bracket, except we are going to now use holes number 1 and 5. So other than that, it's the exact same process. We're going to go ahead and just get this thing finger tightened in to make sure we're not cross-threading it. And once we've got the bolt finger tightened in, we're going to push the bracket all the way to the top and then tighten down to 90 inch-pounds. All right, so now moving down to the bottom of the ladder, again, let's go ahead and grab ourselves the left and the right bottom brackets. Again, the way we know that they're left and right is these bolt heads are inward. So these are going to go like this down on the bottom of the ladder. So let's start with the left, and again, it's got an interesting setup where we just go ahead and grab our M820s, our M8 bolts, which are 20mm long. And again, we're going to use now holes number 3 and 5 in this application. So same thing, let's just go ahead and we'll get finger tight. Make sure we're not cross-threading anything, and then we will tighten them down again to 90 inch-pounds. So I'll just do the left and the right the same way that we did last time. I guess the only thing that's interesting here is that on the right side, it also uses holes 3 and 5, so it's not different holes like it was on the top for whatever particular reason. But I'll go ahead and do that and tighten them down, and we'll be back in a second. All right, so now let's grab one of the lower mounting hanger rods. The left or right, doesn't really matter. You see it's got this tightening hardware bolt on the top. So all we're gonna do is we're just gonna take this out first. Okay, and then once we've gone ahead and removed the bolt, we'll keep all the hardware with it. And now we can take the actual foot or this little mounting rod, and we will slide it up through the lower bracket. And then we will just finger tight this bolt back into the top so it doesn't go anywhere. There's no need to tighten it down right now. Okay, and we'll do the same thing for the other foot, and we'll be back in a second. All right, so then using a water-soluble pen or something that's not permanent, we're going to measure about 3 1/8 inches from the inner seam and make a small mark. Okay, on the bottom and on the top. All right, and now might be a good time to take off the plastic wrapping over these rubber feet. All right, so now we're going to hang the upper brackets over the door using these rubber feet. All right, so moving down to the bottom of the ladder, what we can do now is you can spin this nut and loosen it up just to let this foot drop down a little further so it can slide under the door. Let me do a little more. There we go. Okay, and we're just going to maneuver this until it gets, I guess we're gonna have to do this other side and loosen him a little bit as well. But we basically want to play with this until these feet, there you go, nicely match and fall into the crease there. That's perfect. Okay, and again, I'm going to try to line it up with that mark we made a little earlier, and then I'll just lightly finger tighten this nut. So again, just screw it. Tightening the nut a little bit will suck the feet back up and allow it to grab the bottom of the door. We'll just do this for both sides. And again, get them snug. We don't need to tighten them quite yet. All right. There we are. All right, so we're going to come to the top of the ladder here. We're going to align this with the mark we made earlier. Okay, and that looks pretty good. So since it's lined up, what we now want to do is tighten up this bolt right here. There's a nylon nut here with the bolt here that will screw this down. So just grab a 10mm socket, and we're going to tighten him down. And we'll do the exact same for the bolt on the other side. So we'll tighten both of these guys down, and we'll be back in a second. All right, so now we're down at the bottom of the ladder. Now, before we got here, what I did is I actually went and I visually aligned it and made sure that the ladder was square with the vehicle. And now what we're doing is, once we know it's square with the vehicle, we're ready to tighten down the bottom. Now, if you remember, this is kind of an interesting setup, right? This entire foot slides up and down through this housing. So the way we're going to do that and make it tighter is we are going to go grab ourselves a 13mm socket just to hold this bolt. And now what I can do is I'll go grab myself a crescent wrench, or if you have a 13mm wrench, you can come here with this nut, and we're going to tighten this nut down. And what that will end up doing is it will net effect suck this pedestal or this whole foot up. Okay, so we're just going to do this a little bit to tighten, and we're going to do the same on the other side. So I'm going to do this, and again, you don't want to tighten this excessively, because right now what we're doing is we're compressing and we're squeezing the ladder, and if we do it too much, it might bend the sheet metal of the door. So we just want it to be snug. So I'll do it for the right and the left side, and we'll be back in a second. All right, so we got it pretty snug right now. You can see it's not really moving. So I think the next thing we can do is, we actually don't want this to be the sole way that it's going to keep this compressed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to tighten down both of these nuts, these nylon nuts, which will squeeze this, right? And then the black housing will just be squeezing and friction fitting against this shaft. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that now. I'll grab a 13mm and we'll tighten up both the left and the right, and we'll be back in a second. All right, so these are tight, so it should now be squeezing this shaft, and the shaft should be just held to the housing with basically via friction. So now what we can actually do is we can take out this tightening bolt. So I'm just going to come here and loosen it up, and you can take the entire thing, and look at that. The whole thing should just come right out. And what we're going to do is we'll take this out and we'll save him for later when we want to maybe do this process again. So I will pull him out, and I'll do the same for the other side, and we'll be back in a second. All right, so the tightening bolts are out. The ladder is basically on. Let's do a quick check, and actually I'll show you the clearance is not much. You can see the bottom of the feet there, and as we close the door on the bumper, I don't know if you can see that, but here, maybe if we listen, it barely clears the bottom of the bumper. So I mean, I think if you open this up, you can see, yeah, it maybe scrapes the plastic just a tiny little bit, but I think I can live with that. So this is a real tight, nice fit. So it's a real custom job exactly for this van. So let's close this. There we go. Close the other side. And there we are. There's the ladder. It should basically be mounted. Let's give it a try to see how well it works. All right, so let's see how it does. Oh, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is pretty cool. See, and it's much easier now. If you want to get stuff off of your roof, you can easily climb up and climb down a lot easier than using other techniques. All right, so let's take a look at clearances between your foot and the van as you ascend the ladder. So if you look at this is actually really well done. Look at this, I'm standing on these rungs and my tips of my toes don't actually scratch the van. So this is nice if you're wearing, you know, big heavy work boots and you're going up and down. You're not actually going to be contacting the van as you ascend or descend the ladder. All right, so let's look at another area of potential interference. If you remember, I've got this cargo carrier. I'm sure other people have these as well. Some of these fold up. So in this case, for example, if I take my cargo carrier and fold it up and pin it in the up or the stored position, let's see if there's any interference there. And you can see this is actually pretty darn close. So the system is able to fold up for sure, but there is actually almost no clearance. In fact, if I let this thing go, it does contact the ladder. So that's probably not the best. I don't think I'd want to be driving down the road for hundreds of miles with the cargo carrier scraping against the ladder. So you might need some kind of system in here to shield or buffer or a pad between the cargo carrier and the ladder, or have some way to extend this cargo carrier out a few inches so that you don't get this interference. But it does allow it to fold up, and this is definitely a feasible configuration. All right, and then one more area that sort of falls into the clearance checks section is, let's look at the backup camera. So you can see that in the backup camera, the ladder is visible just barely off to the side. So it does occlude the backup camera ever so slightly, but I think this is something we can live with. All right, so let's check one more area of clearance. So what happens if you want to swing the door completely open? Let's take a look at this, and oh, look at that. This is awesome. It exactly works. Look at that. Perfect. I can fit, oh my gosh, there's probably, oh man, maybe like an inch or something like that at some of the narrowest parts. But long story short, the ladder does not contact. It causes no interference with the rest of the vehicle. So this is pretty awesome. So I can swing the door completely open and it's not a problem with the ladder. So I hope you enjoyed the video. So far, I'm very happy with the ladder. I'm especially excited because having this ladder is going to allow me to move on to my next project, where I'm going to try to build a custom DIY roof rack to haul bikes, solar panels, and other equipment on the roof. So if you enjoyed the video, I hope you'll consider subscribing. Surprisingly, if you just go down and click on that subscribe button, it really does help me continue making these videos. So with that being said, I hope you'll join us at our next adventure van video. So until then, I'll talk to you later. Bye.